Hi, this is Tamsen Granger.
This is Dan Abuhoff.
With Tamsen and Dan Read the Paper. It's Sunday, no, it's Monday.
Monday.
It's Monday, it's Labor Day.
Yeah.
September the 3rd.
Is that right?
Yeah. We're a day late.
And $1 short.
Well, many dollars short, because we've just been to California. We were there.
For the wedding party for Zeke and Noel. Zeke Abuhoff, our youngest son, and Noel Borg.
And it was fun.
Yes, we had a lovely time in Santa Monica. We traveled, our traveling companions being, of course, Granger, our oldest son, and Nico, his wife. And Sadie met us there. And Pam Borg was there, Noel's mother, who we know pretty well by now. There was a lot of partying, hanging out by the beach, enjoying Santa Monica, which I don't know if anyone's aware of this, but it's pretty good weather, generally speaking.
Spent a lot of time on the beach.
Yeah.
And so that was unusual for us.
It was. And, you know, we're not California people, but we've been there before. We know, we've heard of In-N-Out Burger. We understand the drill. And we did all right. We had a good time. And
the party itself was up in the hills.
Tarzana. It's, you know, it's like a movie set. And when I say like a movie set, it is kind of a movie set because the way it works is you rent the location and for the party in this case, but it's a location that's been rented for photo shoots and the like. It was quite Hollywood, wasn't it?
Yes.
Yes, it was you know, it was set for a bacchanalia. It had a big pool in the center of it. It had a basketball court below.
Yes, what bacchanalia is without a basketball court?
That's right.
So clearly.
With a big mural of Kobe Bryant. I mean, what more could you ask for? Yeah, it was unusual. It was, and it was hot there. It was hot there, not like in Santa Monica. Santa Monica's on the water. So not so hot here. It was over 90, but, you know, we managed. The sun eventually moved out of the way a little bit. We got a little shade. And yours truly changed into his bathing suit because that's the kind of party animal I am. You remained fully clothed, I know. And we celebrated.
Yes. We had a lot of fun. And there were, it was fun to meet all their friends.
That's true. There are a lot of people we hadn't met. Younger people who were co-workers or friends they met along the way, many into computer stuff.
Noel's friends from
high school.
Her past.
In Colorado.
And we spent a lot of time with family.
Yes.
With Pam and with Zavi and Ona and Dominique and Chris.
These are Borgs. These are Borgs we're mentioning. This is the Borg side.
Yes. And Smita, the extended Borg family.
Exactly.
Lots of fun.
Right.
So, but anyway, we just flew back, and boy, are our arms tired.
Oh my God! Well, we'll come back to the wedding later. We're still getting over. We flew overnight, and you know, it's clearly on our minds. It's the big event, But things happened while we were gone, and I know that people are at a loss as to how to think about things without getting our take on it. Sports in particular. So
well,
what? Because
we were away, you and Sadie couldn't go to the Open.
Well, that's true. That's true.
The tennis Open.
Yeah, so the tennis Open, you know, and the tennis is just starting. And the time to go to the Open is, if you're going to the weekend, it's the first weekend because all the matches are going on. If you go the last weekend, you're just seeing the semifinals and the finals, which is what people talk about. But
it's the big names.
It's the big names, but it doesn't have the same variety. You can't see 8 or 9 matches in the way you can see it if you go earlier on, which Sadie and I have done. And, you know, it doesn't make sense for us to tell you who won or who lost because people don't hear this.
Old news.
Yeah, it'd be old news. I mean, perhaps the story that's gotten the most play, and I can sort of understand why, although I guess you didn't catch up with it, Tamsen, was Naomi Osaka, who won the tournament last year, played Coco Gauff in an early round.
Oh, really?
He's a 15-year-old.
Oh, really? The two up-and-comers.
Right. Well, yes and no. Naomi Osaka has won 2 championships.
So she's already here.
Yeah, she's here.
Okay, got it.
And Coco Gauff's 15. So Coco Gauff had won a couple of...
They are the next generation.
Yeah, and a half. But
taking over the mantle.
Yes. So Coco Gauff had generated some excitement as a 15-year-old, and she was going to prove her mettle against Naomi Osaka. And Osaka blew her out. Just blew her out. It wasn't a competitive match. And at the end, they shake hands and embrace, and And Naomi says to Coco Gauff, why don't you come with me? Let's do a joint news conference. It's sort of a gracious gesture. And Coco Gauff says, no, I just want to, I'm going to cry. I'm going to cry. I don't want to cry in front of all these people. She's 15 years old. And Naomi Osaka, who's all of 21, says, it's better to cry here than crying in the shower. And
interesting.
And she takes her in front of all these people. And the press conference, the joint press conference, becomes a big story because it's very nice and the crowd warms her up. And Naomi Osaka actually, looks at Coco Gauff's parents. I've been seeing you at events for years, and you have a wonderful daughter. She's going to be a great player, and it becomes a great moment.
So it's a big love fest.
A big love fest, and Naomi Osaka.
And how do you, as a sports fan, feel about that?
Well, I can't get as excited about it as some people, but Naomi.
Because I guess there's crying in tennis. There's no crying in baseball. We all know that.
There's crying. Actually, Sadie had a shirt this weekend with the New York Mets blazoned on the front, on the back, and says no crying in baseball, which I thought was pretty apt. It's just funny to me. Osaka,
a Met fan needs that reminder.
Yes,
constantly.
Osaka is all of 21. You got to give her credit for pulling that off.
I do. That sounds quite mature.
Well, the other big story was about Andrew Luck retired, and people were very excited about that.
Oh, another great tennis player.
No, football player.
Football. Who knew?
So he retires. He's a quarterback, one of the top quarterbacks in the league, plays for the Indianapolis Colts, has been injured on and off for several years, and he was in the middle of, he was rehabbing from his last set of injuries from last year.
I'm sure the team took it in stride.
Rehabbing is hard work.
I'm sure the fans took it in stride.
And it was announced, it kind of got botched because it kind of leaked out, but it was announced at the end of an exhibition game that he was retiring at the age of 29, and the fans were so upset that they booed him. And then it became a controversy because there were people standing up for Andrew Luck saying, the guy's health is at stake. He's retiring because his injuries have affected his career, and it's a mature decision on his part. And of course, this is one of the Times' great causes, is that pro football should be shut down. So the Times say, absolutely, he's ahead of the curve. Anybody from that sport should retire immediately. And how awful that the fans booed him, not to appreciate that this is a guy who's looking at his future as a human being. And the other side of it is that, what they call him, a millennial. He's a wimp. Anyone else would have fought his way through all this, and that's not the way tough guys do things. So that's the level of debate. But it's been a real debate. And to me, as a lawyer, I look at it a little differently. And here's the way I look at it. It's certainly fine for Andrew Luck to retire, and maybe even reasonable, logical, maybe even smart. There's only one problem. He signed a contract to play football. And I'm not saying anyone forces you to play under those circumstances. But when you say to somebody, I promise to play, why don't you sign 40 other guys that will fit with my style of play? And then at the last second you go, not for me. It's not a great thing. It's not a great thing.
So is there going to be a lot of fallout?
No.
Is there going to be a big lawsuit?
No. The PR of it is such that even though he's breaking the contract, the Indianapolis Colts can't do anything about it. And they're just smiling, well, you were a great player, Godspeed. But their season is shattered. And because they have players that they recruited to play with Andrew Luck. It's not going to work.
But you see it as bad behavior. It's
not as bad behavior. The bad behavior isn't retiring. The bad behavior is signing a contract without a thought that you might be retiring. And the fact of the matter is, he's not. In other words, he didn't get hurt last week. He got tired of the rehab. He got tired of the mental strain. He got tired of the prospect of being hurt again. All these things he might have thought of before he signed the contract.
We're confident there's nothing in the contract that allows this?
Oh, I'm not. This is not. No, he shouldn't get sued. But when you promise somebody, you tell them, I'll be there, and you're not there. It's like someone's making a movie. Let's say they're making a movie. Brad Pitt says, I'm going to be in the movie. And they get everybody there, and they get the cameras there, and they get the crew there, and they get the co-stars there. And at the last second, Brad Pitt goes, something, the weather here is too dry for me. I'm not going to do it. Or I have another offer. Whatever it is, he's not there. He might get sued. He might not get sued. But it's not cool. All right? That's the problem.
So you're pretty much focused on the bad behavior bit.
Not bad behavior, just that if you promise something...
That's what I'm hearing.
It is what you're hearing.
That's what I'm hearing.
There's no question it's what you're hearing. You can't promise somebody you're going to do something and then walk out. I mean,
that's what your whole career has been based on.
What?
People backing out of things they've promised
that's why I have a career.
To provide or do, okay?
You know, the quote he has in the Times celebrates, he says, I thought for the first time I should put myself first. I'm going, okay. But there are consequences to that. But in any event, you have something about Santa Monica by total coincidence.
Yes, the article that caught my eye last week in the New York Times was about a woman that the Times refers to as the produce hunter, Karen Beverlin, who is the vice president for specialty sales at Fresh Point, one of the nation's largest produce distributors, supplying schools, hospitals, restaurant chains, and cruise lines. And they show a picture of her at a Santa Monica farmer's market. And we actually were staying across the street from a Santa Monica farmer's market. We did not see her.
No.
But anyway, it's a great story. It's a fun story because it has a couple of different aspects to it. It tells about her and the development of her career, but it also gives you some of her tips about how to pick produce.
Give us an idea of the story.
Well, here's her story. She thought she wanted to be a veterinarian. She went to college, found out really didn't like science and wasn't good at it.
Yeah.
Ends up somehow getting an internship at a nonprofit Fresh Produce Council, all right, which led to 20 years on the shipping side of the Fresh Produce Council business.
Okay.
Whatever that means. Anyway, she's in veggie shipping for 20 years, and 10 years she's been working at Fresh Point. Okay, so it's another one of those great stories where, somebody gets tricked into a job that doesn't seem that glamorous or romantic, and yet it really sort of clicks and works for them.
But what is she doing at Fresh Point?
What is she doing there? Well, she's, she's supplying, sourcing all this produce for all these clients.
Right.
Okay, and one of the things she's doing at the produce market, at the farmer's market, is she's going around looking for the specialty items.
Right, but just so you're clear, when you say she's sourcing, she's finding the fruits and vegetables that they ought to buy.
Right.
Okay.
I mean, they have all kinds of sources, not just from the little stands.
But she's
at
walking
the produce
around.
market.
She's walking around
and
evaluating.
And she's seeing these, sort of, what you would call them, heirloom varieties. Yeah. She's trying cherries, seeing if they're at that peak point of flavor. She's seeing specific fabulous cherries and recommending them to a chef she knows, who's going to turn that into a fabulous sauce for duck at his restaurant that week. And she has a lot of interesting tips. And she says that a lot of the tells that we go by, us amateurs, for what is a tasty fruit or even vegetable, are actually kind of wrong.
Right.
And she has some very interesting little ones. She said, for instance, the best sweet cherries have a matte finish rather than patent leather, and they have tiny little pittings, almost tiny little, blemishes that tell you they're at the peak flavor. A great nectarine has sugar spots, little white freckles. Peaches don't go for the red blush on the peach, which is really what we love. And she says that that's not an indicator of flavor. The peaches were bred because generally when there's an unripe peach, if it's more red, we're attracted to it than if it's just pale. It doesn't necessarily...
yeah. So she's an expert. She knows what's good.
Do not squeeze the peach or the stone fruit with your fingertips. You're only going to breeze it. She picks it up, holds it like the palm in the hand, and just gives it the barest pressure. She says it needs to give just a bit, firm but not hard.
Well,
if you wait till, she also says if you wait till it gets like,
too soft,
super ripe.
Forget it.
You're past the point of maximum
she
flavor.
Says get it before it's ripe.
There's that.
Yeah, do they actually call her the fruit and vegetable whisperer or something like that?
No, they actually call her the hunter.
Oh, really?
Okay, but here's another interesting thing. She carries with her, okay, a portable bricks.
Oh, yeah.
Refractometer.
Well, anyone
which
can do that.
Measures
measure the sugar, right?
The amounts of sugar from just a few drops of the juice.
Well,
she says all the chefs know these numbers,
right?
And that's the way she can.
Well, I got the feeling that she didn't even need that, but she felt that to communicate, it's easier because that way she can get.
Well, if a chef says exactly, right. If a chef says, "Well, how sweet are they? How perfect are they?" and she said, "Well, I got this on my." Refractometer.
But whatever it's called. But a lot of people just rely on it implicitly, and she says, "This is the thing to get. Go get it, buy it, boom." Right.
So it's a combination of tremendous experience and having this little state of the art stuff.
Well, always...
But anyway, she one of the reasons she was attracted to this business was it all happens early in the morning. So she's done early in the day, can spend the rest of the day with her daughter.
Yeah.
Her daughter becomes a lawyer.
Yeah, daughter's a lawyer, but she's actually older. I don't know how old she is, but she talks about retiring and not retiring. And I think she concludes by saying...
She's hardly old at all. She's 59.
Well, she did say something about she chooses to go by passing away while she's looking at fruit or something like that. So she's looking
well, that's what they say. When will you retire?
Yeah, never.
And she says, I plan to die right here in the market.
No, that's why she seemed old to me. But, all right. It's nice that there's room for expertise. It was a pretty persuasive piece.
But you love a person like that who knows their business so well.
And everybody in the area knows it too. And all the people who have the produce run to her.
And they
all know her. And they say, "Come here, I got it now. This is the right stuff."
Right. Yeah. The different little stories of her interacting with both sellers and buyers.
Right.
It's a great story. Yeah. Karen Beverlin, produce hunter.
So it's interesting. Follow-up from a review that was in the Times. A woman named Laura Collins Hughes, I guess one of those folks who's a critic at the Times who gets to review plays during the summer, as opposed to the regular reviewers, had written a review of what's become a little bit of a sensation, which is a double play performance in New York. It's called Seawall / A Life. Two plays. The first, Seawall, is a monologue by a fellow named Tom Sturridge. The second is A Life is a monologue by Jake Gyllenhaal. And in particular, Tom Sturridge's performance attracted this woman, Colin Hughes, in her review. And it was a very positive review. And the thing she focused on more than anything else was she said this fellow was so captivating telling this story, which is pretty much a sad story about the loss of a child, that deeply into it, there was a long pause, and sure enough, a cell phone went off. And without breaking stride, and looking just slightly at the audience, he said softly, "It's okay." It's okay, which she took as almost breaking the fourth wall, as a comment that might have been in the context of the play, but was very much telling the audience, let's not overreact to the cell phone. And this play never missed the beat, never lost anything. And she thought that was amazing on his part, to be able to do that at the spur of the moment, and that it said so much about the intensity and the mood in the theater that they were able to carry that off. So that was impressive, and certainly I remembered it. Well, 2 weeks later, Laura Collins Hughes has doubts. And those doubts stem from the fact that she runs into a couple people who've seen it, and they say, when I saw it, a cell phone went off also. And now she's saying to herself, whoa. Is it possible that I reacted in this tremendously positive way because of what I thought was a spontaneous moment that they had to overcome, when in fact it's part of the play? And now she felt she had gotten the review wrong, and she set out to figure out what's going on. And she ended up talking to more people who'd seen the play. One or two had said, yeah, cell phone went off, some not. And she ended up going back to the play 3 or 4 times. And the times that she went back, cell phone didn't go off. So she was really at a loss. And she felt she had to nail this down. It became an obsession. So she actually wrote the playwright and said, is this part of the play? And he said to her, it's absolutely not part of the play. It's absolutely not in the script. And then he sent her a second email a little bit later. It said, but when you think about it, it's not really, it fits very perfectly into what we're doing, doesn't it? Right? Something like that. Which just caused her to think again, maybe they're playing with her. I mean, maybe it is part of the play. And now, and I think she concludes after writing this whole article about this, you know something? It doesn't make any difference. It's a play. It creates a certain mood. It's as real as it chooses to be. Whether it's the third wall or the fourth wall, whether it's on purpose or it's not purpose, it's all testament to what's going on in the theater and the connection that people are making, the message that the playwright's getting across, and the ultimate theme that's at the core of this play. And therefore, whether it's on purpose or not, whether they're fooling with her or not, it doesn't make any difference. It's tremendously affecting performance, and that's what matters. And I think that's right. But it's a funny set of circumstances because people do deal in the theater with the notion that a cell phone can go off anytime, and often it does. And sometimes at the very worst times when it's totally obvious that it is not part of the script. And there's a famous incident where Patti LuPone kind of reamed out someone in the audience because a cell phone went off during one of her performances.
So now we can feel quite comfortable and not worry about our cell phones going off in a play. It can simply be a measure of how, captivating this actor or actress is.
That would not be, I would not take that.
I think that's the way you've laid it out here, Dan.
No.
Yes.
What I'm saying is that it's always a bad thing. But whether the playwright's being upfront with you as to what's in the play or what's not, or whether the playwright goes so far, or the production goes so far as to sort of mislead as to what's spontaneous and what's not, at the end of the day, it doesn't make any difference because it's all about misleading. It's all theater. And you just take it for whatever the experience was.
Yeah, get with it, Patti LuPone.
Get with it, yeah. Okay, get with it. Go ahead.
Go ahead with what?
You have something about, Victoria. Something which is pretty standard.
No, not Victoria. Prince Albert.
Well, there are a couple.
Yes, but the book, it's a review of a book.
Yeah.
Biography by A.N. Wilson.
Yeah.
And this is in the Wall Street Journal. And the title of the book is Prince Albert. So it's about Prince Albert, as in Albert and Victoria. And really kind of, goes far to kind of fill out our understanding of who he was and what he did. And he was profoundly interested in the arts. It starts out, he's just her husband. She's queen. He's not king.
Right.
They can't even get Parliament to let him be Prince Consort.
Well, ultimately,
she just decides that later. Consort. She works it out later because she's queen. But he had a lot of progressive ideas. He was very interested in the arts and science. He's the big supporter of the Great Exhibition at the Crystal Palace in 1851. Where everybody is showing off their new technology, and that gives birth to World's Fairs.
Oh, really?
For years to come, and we know your family is indebted to the concept.
Not to mention Prince Albert pipe tobacco.
So there was all this stuff he managed to do, even though he was Mr. Victoria. But anyway, I'm telling you, the only reason I would really read it is it sounds like it has some fairly in-depth examination of their romantic love life, their interludes with each other. Apparently, it's well known. I'm not a Victoria person, but I'm a little Victorian, but not an expert in Victoria. But apparently, it's well known. I mean, I know she was besotted with him. Right. When he dies, she invents a whole new level of mourning and widowhood and the trappings that are involved there. But apparently, she was quite besotted with him physically. I mean, they end up with 9 kids. She was not shy about letting people know that. Yes, the Times
makes it clear that she's...
And she maintained that.
She wrote about it.
She maintained that.
Yes, she wrote
Despite this reviewer saying she was devoted to him amorously for 2 decades, despite increasing baldness and paunchiness.
Yeah, I don't understand why the baldness is a problem. But the paunchiness I can see is an issue.
But anyway, it turns out he did not exactly return the favor.
Yeah.
He was a good husband. They had 9 kids.
Yes.
All right. He kept up with his responsibilities.
Right.
But he did the job. But for her,
she was overwhelmed.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Good. That's interesting.
That's
That's
interesting.
a good situation. situation.
You know, you never think, you see those old pictures of her where she's like 500 years old, you know, in the big black dress.
Yeah.
You don't ever think of her having sex.
That's why the PBS series did a little
lesson
differently.
is learned here.
Yeah. Yes.
We were all young once.
Apparently, she was young many times. So here's something. This comes back to Zeke again. I feel I'm empowered to do this because Zeke would be interested in this. I know Granger was. There's an article in the Times, of all places, about the Submariner. The Submariner is a long-time Marvel character, but one who hasn't quite made it to the movies, which is hard to do these days because the folks who make these movies, like Marvel and Sony and whatever, have really, you know, scoured the planet to come up with every different movie they can and use every different character. And yet, the Submariner has escaped their notice. So the Submariner is a mythical figure. The mythical offspring of a human and a woman who is a citizen of Atlantis. Therefore, he rules the seas and he can exist on land for certain periods of time. He also has what we'll call webbed feet, something in the way of wings almost. A marvelous swimmer. He looks somewhat amphibious. He can command amphibious creatures, make them do their will, or at least suggest strongly that that's what they do. And so he's a powerful force, and he looks pretty tough in a bathing suit. And yet, he hasn't quite made it. I mean, Aquaman's got his own movie. That's the DC comic version, but this is Marvel. But there are wonderful stories they highlight going back to 1940 about Submariner emerging as a character with the Fantastic Four. And he's had all kinds of adventures I wasn't even aware of. I mean, you can understand the normal, you know, getting the fish together to go battle, but at some point he becomes a movie executive, makes a movie with the Fantastic Four. Turns out that what he's really trying to do is impress the Invisible Woman, who's Mr. Fantastic's wife, because he wants to steal her away. Doesn't quite work out. But the movie's so successful, it sets up the Fantastic Four in funds for all kinds of years. There's another point. So
that's where they get introduced, the Fantastic Four?
Not introduced, but this is early on. I mean, he's constantly working with the Human Torch. At one point, he has some medical difficulty, in which he has trouble breathing air. He gets help from Dr. Doom, who you'll recall was kind of a tough character. So he's back in the saddle, and he doesn't have to wear a special suit. He can wear his normal outfit, which is swim trunks. And the Human Torch says, "Oh, gee, we haven't seen Subby in his swim trunks in a long time. He looks good." So, you know, there's all this jabbering back and forth between them. He ends up running a huge environmental company. He walks around in a suit. He's a wonderful character.
So why is he not a household name like Superman?
I think it's hard to...
is it the same reason that Shape of Water wasn't everybody's favorite?
Yeah. I mean, it's the amphibious nature of the character turns some people off. And, you know, it's one thing to dress a guy up, you know, in a superhero suit, but otherwise he looks good in gray flannel as Clark Kent. And, you know, we all have an easy time identifying with him. The Submariner is an odd-looking dude, and he's neither, how shall we say, fish nor fowl.
But you, with your newfound love of swimming flippers...
Aquatics, yes. That's
probably have a
swimming
whole new...
flippers have changed my life.
Right.
I am a demon in the water with swimming flippers.
And you probably have a whole new respect for Submariner.
I had a lot of respect to begin with.
Well, maybe you just identify with him a little bit
I do. And there's an obvious... There are many similarities between the two of us.
So why are they writing the article?
There's no reason in the Western world why.
Okay, it's just somebody likes...
It might be some, you know, as Granger explained to me, he says, you know, sometimes articles in the New York Times are kind of planted by PR people. I said, oh.
Ooh, Submariner's guys working overtime.
Exactly, the Marvel folks. But, you know, it's always nice to see something about him. Old Subby.
Well, another review in the Wall Street Journal is about... a book biography of George Gershwin.
Right.
And it's called Summertime by Richard Crawford. It is 594 pages long. Mm-hmm. And you know, hard for me to tell if it's a great book or not. But boy, what an interesting person.
Yeah.
And born in 1898 and dies young. Age 38.
Right.
Of
brain aneurysm.
Yeah. Well, glioblastoma probably had a huge tumor.
Mm-hmm.
But he, you know, grew up son of Russian Jewish immigrants. His family lived in 28 different places by the time he was an adolescent. And somehow, in the midst of all those changes, he learned how to play the piano.
Well, the thing I can follow, they got a piano when he was 14, and it almost sounds like he could play it when he sat down. And I don't know if he was playing other people's pianos, but word got out quickly that he was a prodigy after spent 10 minutes in the living room with the new thing. And he took it from there, and everybody recognized him and acknowledged him as a prodigy. You know, he's contemporary of Irving Berlin. Harold, Schoenberg, Irving Schoenberg, Harold Schoenberg, said he was a prodigy. I mean, he was a genius, right?
Right.
And couldn't have been a bigger celebrity at the time, writing popular music, writing scores that infused jazz riffs in the middle of symphonic works, such as Rhapsody in Blue.
Well, but here's the thing I don't understand. How did he know? I guess I'm going to have to read the book. I mean, we listen to Gershwin all the time. We love him. Love Rhapsody in Blue.
Right.
Love Oscar Levant playing Rhapsody in Blue. But how does he know so much about blues, jazz, Black American musical traditions, etc.? And how does he end up being the person who interjects that into modern music?
Yeah, well, that's a good. I think
audience.
My guess is it's in the book. It's not in the review, but I bet it's in the book, and it's clearly what he does. And they talk about how there was some mixed feelings about that. He had sort of little competition with Duke Ellington about that. When he wrote Porgy and Bess, the estate insisted that it only be performed with black actors. They were very committed to that notion. They know they were playing that kind of music, and they wanted black actors to have the opportunity to perform that kind of music. So it's a complicated thing, but he clearly has that sensibility. He wasn't the only one who was doing that at the time, but he was clearly the most successful. There are other tunes that others wrote that were close enough. But so I wonder if there was a tradition already. I mean, you hear that in Showboat with Jerome Kern. You hear that in others.
But anyway, his music really lives on. I mean, it's not like it's some music that you have to be work hard to introduce your children to.
No, it's great.
It's everywhere. Lady Gaga sings it. It's in the background of airline commercials.
Right.
It's all over the place.
So
that tells you something. It's so all over the place. In fact, it was at the wedding.
Exactly. To come back to the wedding.
The wedding party
seamless,
this weekend.
Right.
Noel and Zeke danced to "They Can't Take That Away From Me,"
sung by
Louis Armstrong and the great Ella Fitzgerald,
who Sadie, as a child, would refer to as Leah Fitzgerald. But yes, So Gershwin, amazing talent, and still an amazing talent. I mean, there's tremendous influence. But let's go back to the wedding for just a second, because we had the opportunity. There were people make remarks or toasts at the end of the party, or the latter part of the party that we had on Saturday. And those are just brief, and it's not clear what to say, and it's sort of a party atmosphere. But you always think afterwards, maybe I could have added something, or maybe I shouldn't have added something.
Well, for those who didn't make it to the party.
Yeah.
You want to tell a story?
Well, so I'm thinking about, Zeke. And to me, look, without getting too deep into the wedding, my favorite Zeke story, because Zeke's one of my favorite people, so it's simple to tell a favorite Zeke story. But it tells you a lot, it says a lot to me about Zeke, and even a little bit what it's like to be a father of someone like Zeke. And that is that even though I feel I understand Zeke, because we think alike in a lot of ways, he's full of surprises. He's a unique guy. And one perfect example of this was that he came home one day from high school, his junior or senior year, and said he wanted to learn how to sing, which is kind of unusual. Certainly not something I would have done. And he was at a school which we were able to arrange that he had singing lessons. And he was serious. He wanted to learn how to sing. And of course, we weren't hearing him practice or anything. He said, "Are you really, really doing this?" Yeah. And then for a confluence of events, before you know it, after doing this for a few weeks or maybe a few months, something got moved up, and we said, "Well, this Sunday there's going to be a recital, and Zeke's going to sing." And I'm going, what? He's going to sing at a recital? I never heard him sing.
But we couldn't be there.
Well, we couldn't be there because we had sporting events with the other kids.
No.
Why?
Granger was graduating.
Oh, is that what it was?
From college.
Oh, is that what it was?
Yes.
Well, whatever.
An event we actually weren't going to miss.
Okay, but I ended up being there.
We were all there together at Granger's graduation.
Yeah.
And the nanosecond it ended, you and Zeke hopped in a car.
From Connecticut to go to New Jersey for his singing recital. And I'm there with Zeke, and we drive to this very impressive music building that they have there at the high school. And he's there for the recital. And next thing you know, I'm sitting down, and I'm listening to the recital. And sure enough, the first person comes on, a lovely young woman, is junior or senior in high school, and she sings opera, and I'm going like, oh, wow. And then another young woman comes on, and she plays the violin, like classical violin, like she's been playing her whole life, which she obviously was. Next person, young woman comes on, I think she's playing the violin and singing opera at the same time. I mean, I'm totally, what are we doing here? I'm saying to myself, what's Zeke going to do here? What's Zeke going to do? Because I don't think he can sing at all. And this is really
high class. Well, you're sure he can't sing at all.
Right. And it's high class stuff.
You know Zeke.
This is going to be embarrassing. What's happening? And then they say, next is Zeke Abuhoff. And I'm like sitting there in the audience, and I literally can't look. And I have like my face is buried in my hands in a subtle way. And I'm going like, oh my God, what are we going to do? And I'm not even looking at the stage. And the piano starts, and then I hear this deep baritone voice singing Shenandoah. And I'm going, what's that? And I'm listening, and it goes on, and it's a very impressive baritone voice singing this very, moving, old-time folk tune. I won't sing for you because I can't sing. And I'm saying, well, could that possibly be Zeke? But I can't bring myself to look. And then it gets through the whole thing practically, and toward the very end, guess what happens? Of all things, a cell phone goes off, and there's an awkward moment. And it stops, and I take my hands off my face, and I realize it's Zeke who's been singing. And then the teacher who's been running this whole thing says, oh, it's very embarrassed, very embarrassed. We'll do that last bit again. And I'm saying, no, don't do that. That's fine. That was good.
Leave well enough alone.
No, and they do it. And of course, just to show how completely nonplussed I am by this whole thing, instead of me enjoying it because now I know that he can really sing, I put my hands over my face again. I can't look, and sure enough, he does it. So, what can I say? I mean, Zeke's just a unique guy. He's full of surprises. He's got talents. He's got resources. He's got nerve. He's got dimension. And it's really something.
Well, I think it's worth noting that you can be surprised by your children.
Look, obviously, that's what you learn. You think you know somebody.
We only know the tip of the iceberg.
Exactly right. Exactly right. If I learned anything from that, and I probably didn't learn enough, it's exactly what you just said. That your children are their own people, and they're going to surprise you. But anyway, so you have.
Well, what I was thinking about during that whole fun event and the fun weekend was an old piece of advice that I remember came from my favorite radio psychologist, Joy Brown, Dr. Joy Brown.
Yeah.
If you remember her on WOR.
I do.
She used to say there are two things you want to give your kids: roots and wings. And roots to provide a firm and loving foundation to take them through life, and the wings to, go forth and embrace all aspects of life and new adventures, etc. And so I was gratified to look at Zeke and Noel and think these are people with roots and wings, and Godspeed.
Yeah, I think that's true. Yeah.
So there we have it. It's been a wonderful weekend. Now we have to go sleep it off.
Well, yeah. I guess that's right. So,
and I'm glad to say their love is probably here to stay.
I think that's true. So that's it for this episode of Tamsen Dan Read the Paper. I'm Dan Abuhoff.
I'm Tamsen Granger. See you next week.